Well, we need hope, don't we? And sometimes we are in more desperate need of it than other times. We need hope, and that is a big part of what the Christmas and the Advent season is all about. It's the hope that we have in Jesus, and we're in the midst of a 3-month series here called "Opting into God's Kingdom." And the first chunk we just completed was on the importance of generosity, of giving, and reminding that one of the ways that we opt into God's kingdom, one of the ways we help God's kingdom come to life, is the way that we give, the way that we share our time, we share our talent, we share our resources. That helps God's kingdom to come to life. This chunk of the series is around grounding. That we are to, one of the ways we opt into God's kingdom is we ground ourselves in God's love. We ground ourselves in God's promises, in the hope that we have in Jesus. As we talk about grounding, we also think about building. We build our lives on Jesus. Jesus is our cornerstone. And so this Advent season is a time of really looking towards Jesus' arrival. Jesus is coming into the world. It's a reminder for us that Jesus has already come, and yet he will come again. And that, my friends, is our basis for hope. That's where we find our peace. That's where we place our trust, is in God's promises, in God's hope. So today, as we enter into this Advent season, we hear the prophet Jeremiah. And the prophet Jeremiah is in a very desperate situation. And in the midst of that desperation comes to him a word of hope. And I know that for so many of us, the holidays are such a tricky time, aren't they? Because there's so much that we're excited about. There's also so much that overwhelms us. And for a lot of us, the holidays also brings up grief as we think about who's not here to celebrate with us. Or we think about times in the holidays that are hard and difficult. And so Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all of this brings up just an interesting mix of emotions, doesn't it? And sometimes in the midst of that, it can be easy to feel hopeless. It can be easy to feel lost. It can be easy to feel like the darkness is closing in. And in many ways, that's the situation that Jeremiah found himself in. And so the prophet Jeremiah today is in a pretty ugly situation. So it's bad enough that the whole country is being invaded and taken over by the Babylonians. But on top of that, his job as a prophet is to speak truth to the king. And unfortunately, the king doesn't like the truth that Jeremiah is speaking. And so Jeremiah has been put in a pit in the middle of the courtyard in Jerusalem. He's in the pit, and he's dependent on somebody dropping down a loaf of bread every now and then so that he has something to eat. But he's stuck in a pit while the whole country's being taken over, and it's only a matter of time until the Babylonians tear down the walls and break into the city. And so the city is starting to starve. People are doing all sorts of terrible things just to survive, and Jeremiah is in a pit. Pretty desperate situation. And as Jeremiah is in this pit, he gets this vision from God, a reminder that our God is a God of hope, a God of promises, that even when things look bad, even when they might get worse, God is still with us, and God will come to set things right. And friends, ultimately, that is the bigger part of the theme about the kingdom of God. It's about God coming to set things right. And I think what all of us are constantly trying to come to terms with is all the ways that the world isn't right. It's in our faces all the time, isn't it? The world isn't right. There's so much in our world that's broken. There's so much within us that's broken. And it can be hard to trust God in the midst of that. And yet this idea of God's kingdom coming, of the breaking in of God's kingdom, is the reminder that actually if we stop and look and choose to participate, if we opt in, we actually see God's kingdom coming to life. It is coming to life in us and through us and around us. And this place is a testament to that. And what's happening here is a part of God's kingdom coming to life. And so we're going to wrestle with all of those things this morning as we jump into Jeremiah's text here this morning. So let's start this first part. He says, God's message. You're going to look at this place, these empty and desolate towns of Judah, streets of Jerusalem, and say, a wasteland, unlivable. Not even a dog could live here. But the time is coming when you're going to hear laughter and celebration, marriage festivities, and people exclaiming, thank God of the angel armies. He's so good, his love never quits. As they bring thank offerings into God's temple, I'll restore everything that was lost in this land, and I'll make everything as good as new. I, God, say so. So as you hear the first part, God actually says things are going to get worse. Before they get better, he says they're going to get worse. He says, as you look around, you will say, not you're already saying, but you will say, unlivable, not even a dog could live here. And that's a hard word for us to hear when we're in that place of hopelessness, isn't it? When we're in those hard space that we need to hear it also still might get worse. And we can't imagine it getting worse. And I want to ask you to try to remember for a moment those times in your life where you have been in that place and yet somehow you've come out on the other side. What you learned about yourself and what you learned about God through those times. We don't pretend in this place that the bad things are good for us. We don't say here, well, God did that to me so that I would learn something. We don't do that. But what we do say here is that we have a God we can count on who walks with us through those things. We have a God we can place our trust and hope in, who will make things right, who will heal us, a God who will help us, a God who will restore us. And that's the word here to Jeremiah. God speaks reality. No, actually, Jeremiah, things are going to get worse before they get better. But they will get better. And there will come a time, I know you can't imagine it, Jeremiah, but there will come a time where there will be laughter in these streets again. I know all you can see is destruction, but there will come a time where there will be marriage festivities. There will be good times to come. It will happen. And I think often we need to try to remember that. It doesn't mean that things will be what they were, but it does mean that there will be life again, that there will be good things again, that there's something to look forward to, and that we can place our hope in Jesus. And so God says people will say, he's so good, his love never quits. And so that's part of our hope today, that God will restore things in our life. And of course, ultimately for us, as we talk about God's kingdom coming, our eyes are also towards the future kingdom, the perfect kingdom, the eternal kingdom. That there is a time where all things will be made right, where our relationships will be fully restored, where we will see our loved ones again, where things will be set right. That's coming. But now we live in the in-between, waiting for that time. And so as people of God, we ask ourselves, so how are we a part of God's kingdom coming here and now? How do we help that kingdom to break through? Well, let's hear this last part of the reading today, and then we'll talk some more about this. Jeremiah goes on, watch for this. The time is coming, God's decree, when I will keep the promise I made to the families of Israel and Judah. When that time comes, I will make a fresh and true shoot sprout from the David tree. He will run this country honestly and fairly. He will set things right. That's when Judah will be secure and Jerusalem live in safety. The motto for the city will be, God has set things right for us. God has made it clear that there will always be a descendant of David ruling the people of Israel, and that there will always be Levitical priests on hand to offer burnt offerings, present grain offerings, and carry on the sacrificial worship in my honor. And so God speaks these words of promise. He says, first of all, there will be a time where you will have a leader who will set things right. A leader will come to do the right thing. He will set things right. And for so long, the people of Israel looked for this. They looked for a political leader who would be their answer, who would be their solution. And that's why when Jesus, hundreds of years later, was with his disciples, they were waiting for him to do this very thing. They were saying, Jesus, when will you establish your kingdom? In other words, when are you going to lead the revolution here that we get these guys out of power and we can get you in power? That's why they had to kill him, because he was a threat to their power. They were looking for a person to set things right. As we know all too well, it doesn't matter, honestly, it doesn't matter who we put in the White House, they're not going to set things right. Let's be honest about that. And it's foolish of us to put our human hope and trust in people. It is, especially in political people. Because political people are beholden to other things. We need to always be honest about that. I never place my hope in who I'm voting for. That doesn't mean we shouldn't try our best to elect good people who will do good things. We should do our best to do that. That's not where our hope goes. Our hope is in Jesus. And ultimately, that's what happened here. Jesus came. And what we're looking forward to as we look towards Christmas morning is God coming to the earth in human flesh to set things right. And how did Jesus set things right? He set things right between us and God. He restored our relationship with God. Jesus came to heal our brokenness. Jesus came to set us free from sin. Jesus came to give us a way to eternal life. Jesus came to set things right. Jesus gives us the possibility of being in restored relationship, of knowing real forgiveness. Jesus gives us life. And notice here the second part of the promise, though, that is offered is that the people will be able to worship God freely and fully. Of course, that's the other thing that Jesus did for us is you can worship God anytime, anywhere. You don't need a church. You don't need a pastor or priest to go between you and God. You can worship God anytime, any place. That's part of what this season is about, is taking time to stop and talk with God every day, throughout the day. To be intentional in opting into God's kingdom on a daily basis. To watch for the ways that God is already active in your life and in your world. To look for those opportunities that God gives you to be that peace, to be that hope, to be that new life for others. God calls us to be the ones who help bring his kingdom to life in the here and now. For me, that's part of what's so special about this place, about you, about us and what we're doing here. This opportunity that God has given us with this place to welcome people in, to love them well, to share with them what it really means to be loved, to be welcomed, and to be invited into something bigger. So I want to ask you, as you are wrestling with all these things this morning, what gives you hope in the world today? What gives you hope? And what is it that you're looking forward to? As the new year comes, as we move into this new space, what is it that you're excited about? What are the ways that you see God already at work in this place, in this community, in this world that gives you hope? I'd love to take just a few minutes to share some of those things. What's giving you hope right now? What are you excited about right now? How do you see God's kingdom coming? Annalyn? Yeah. So Anna's sharing about the hope that she sees. Yesterday we had parents' night out, day and night out. It's from 2 to 5 hours, 5 hours free. And so we had over 30 kids here, but we had over 20 high school and college students making that happen. And to see those young people loving, sharing, showing kids what God's love looks like is pretty incredible. I wasn't here, but I got to see pictures. And that's a reason for hope, to see God's kingdom coming like that. Yeah. Thanks, Anna. Thank you, Cindy. She was sharing kids in general, and she said, first of all, family, being a teacher on Family Faith Night, I get to see it. Also, she has a younger sibling, and there was a birthday celebration yesterday that was pretty special. But she said the way that children naturally want to share joy, are hopeful, share God's love, that gives a lot of hope, absolutely. It's important to spend time with children and to see that and to nurture that in them. Yeah, thank you. Tony? Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Tony. Tony was sharing, and actually at the first service, Kyle lifted up the volunteers, and that's another part of that. And Tony said, I want to lift up all the adults here too. But looking back over the last year, not only the time and energy, but also the blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into the what's happening here is incredible. And couple that with the idea of all the volunteers that make everything here happen that happens. So many people doing so many different things. And as a staff, we often, our staff meetings are Mondays, and every Monday we share our celebrations. And so much of our celebrations are celebrating you guys and all the ways that you show up and make things happen. And we get to say, yeah, and so did this. And we have these people say yes to this, and this thing's happening over here. And that is full of hope. But then I love the turn that Tony took with it. He said, it's not just what's happened so far, but then to say if we can take that same kind of energy and intentionality and put it towards God's kingdom coming to life in this place, that's pretty awesome. And that's the transition and the vision that we're making here, right? Our goal has never been, let's get a new building. Our goal has always been, what's God going to do with a new space? And how can God's kingdom come to life through a new space? And so we're not nearing the finish line at all. This stage is getting completed, but the next stage is just getting started, and that's really exciting. Yeah. Thank you, Tony. Thanks, Doug. Doug's reminding us that there's a great big world with, first of all, a lot of difficulty, right? And a lot of us know for our own mental health, we shouldn't be watching the news 24/7 because it's devastating, isn't it? And it is important, though, for us as Christians to be aware of what's going on in the world and what needs to be made right. But Doug said also, though, if you look, there's also lots of reasons for hope because there are lots of people and places doing something and trying to make things right. Brett? Thanks, Brett. Brett was really lifting up the beauty and the gift of generations. And as Brett's sitting with 3 generations, as he's blessing someone who's sneezing, sitting with 3 generations and remembering himself being that youngest generation and all that he's learned in this place and all the ways he's been blessed by this community and getting to be a part of passing that on and seeing it continue and noting that it's not just about traditions, but it's really about living our faith, living God's love and being intentional in the ways that we bring God's kingdom to life. And to see that happening across generations is a really beautiful thing, isn't it? A couple more things. What anybody else want to share? What gives you hope or ways you see God's kingdom coming to life here? Brad? Yeah, thanks, Brad. So, Brad's lifting up the beauty of community happening in the way that God's working through us all together, the way that we're being brought together. And he noted that, he's always had hope about individuals being able to make an impact and make a difference, but it's a whole different thing to see a whole community. And for me, that is part of us getting back to, I think, what God intends for the church to be. The church isn't about a gathering on a Sunday morning. The church is about the body of Christ coming to life and impacting and blessing the world. That's the purpose of the church. We are God's hands and feet in the world, and we do that together. We accomplish more together. And so to see the way that in this whole process, new relationships have been built, new pockets of community have been put together, but then us as a wider whole, the Spirit unifying us and God doing really cool things. It's really incredible to be a part of. And to know that, I show up and use my gifts, and you show up and use your gifts, and somebody over here shows up and use their gifts, and God takes all of it, and together, wow, it's incredible. Renee? Hmm. Renee's lifting up the light that brings hope this time of year, and what an incredible gift it is to, as the days get shorter, to see those Christmas lights coming on, and to remember that those lights, that's part of the lighting up the darkness. It gives us hope, and that's a big part of what we're about as a community, isn't it? Not only being God's light for one another, but the way together we're a light for the broader community. In so many ways, that's what the Advent season is all about. And that's why we have the Advent wreath lit this morning right here. And we'll keep lighting candles each week as we go along. That's a traditional way for us to recognize that we are celebrating God's light coming into the darkness that we experience in this world. And it's a reminder that that light is given to us. And on Christmas Eve, we're all going to light our candles. And we do that to remember that this light of Christ is given to us, and our job is to go light the world, to take it out and bring light into the darkness that others experience. Thank you. I'm gonna wrap this up here, my friends, but I want you to continue to reflect on this question of hope. What gives you hope? Where do you see hope happening? Where do you see God working in this community? As I mentioned in the beginning, we're in the midst of this series on opting into God's kingdom, and we started with the piece of giving. We opt in by the ways that we give, and we've been talking about how we all are a part of making that difference. And today, when you come forward for communion, you're invited to also place your pledge card for the next year into the basket up here. That's a way of opting in. Of course, if you don't have it or you forgot it, no big deal. You can do it online or turn this in anytime. But this second piece that we're focusing on now is grounding. How we ground ourselves in God's promises. That the basis for our hope is in Jesus first and foremost. And as we look at the darkness in the world, we don't lose hope, but rather we cling to Christ, and then we look for the ways that we can be his hands and feet in the world. We are grounding ourselves in this good news. We're grounding ourselves in God's love. And just as Tony was saying, let's continue to dream and get excited about as we welcome the whole community into this renovated space, that God's love really comes to life in a whole new way. And that we are intentional here about building community. We're intentional here about meeting the needs of others. Francine shared this morning during the Hope session, she talked about Heights Unlimited. And she said, one of the things she does every week after they close up the clothes closet and food pantry, she counts the empty hangers in the clothes closet. This last week, there were 95 empty hangers. Okay? That's hope. That's people being blessed, lives being touched. That's hope. And so as we move into this space and really fully make it what I think God intends for it to be, we get to opt into what God's doing here. And we get to be a part of that kingdom coming to life as different generations gather, as children are loved, as adults are loved, as we all use our gifts. We get to be a blessing. I hope that is hope for all of us. But more importantly, let's keep our hope in Jesus. Let's pray. Mighty God, we thank you for bringing light into our darkness. We thank you for loving us when we feel unlovable. We thank you for giving us peace when we feel chaotic. We thank you for saving us and redeeming us, loving us. God, we are excited to see your kingdom come to life in new ways in this place. We pray that you help us to continue to opt in each day to you, to opt into what you're doing. Help us to be intentional in turning our hearts and minds to you each day, to grounding ourselves in who you are, to trust in your promises, and to know that you've got us, and you've got good things planned for us. So help us to look to you, to trust in you, to place our hope in you, so that your kingdom might come. In Jesus' name we pray these things. Amen.